talking about the bill in the Senate, that you are okay with the change and how to pay for it, the surtax, the 5.6% surtax on millionaires.
We've always said that we would be open to a variety of ways to pay for it. We put forward what we thought was a solid approach to paying for the jobs bill itself. Keep in mind, though, that what I've always said is that not only do we have to pay for the jobs bill, but we also still have to do more in order to reduce the debt and the deficit. So the approach that the Senate is taking, I'm comfortable with in order to deal with the jobs bill. We're still going to need to reform this tax code to make sure that we're closing loopholes, closing special interest tax breaks, making sure that the very simple principle, what we call the Buffett rule, which is that millionaires and billionaires aren't paying lower tax rates than ordinary families, that's in place. So there's going to be more work to do with respect to making our tax system fair and just and promoting growth. But in terms of the immediate action of getting this jobs bill passed, I'm fine with the approach that they're taking.
My question has to do with your powers of persuasion. During the debt ceiling debate, you asked for the American public to call members of Congress, and switchboards got jammed. You have done a similar thing while going around the country doing this. Talking to members of Congress, there's not the same reaction. You're not hearing about phones being jammed. Talking to one member of Congress, he told me there's a disillusionment he's concerned about with the public, that maybe they just don't believe anything can get done anyway. Are you worried about your own powers of persuasion and maybe that the American public's not listening to you anymore?
Well, no, what we've seen is the American people respond very enthusiastically to the specific provisions of the jobs bill. They are very skeptical about Congress's ability to act right now, and that's understandable. The American people are very frustrated. They've been frustrated for a long time. They don't get a sense that folks in this town are looking out for their interests. They get a sense that folks in this town are thinking about their own jobs, their own careers, their own advancement, their party interests. And so if the question is, Chuck, are people feeling cynical and frustrated about the prospects of positive action in this city? Absolutely. And I can go out there and make speeches, but until they actually see action, some of that cynicism is going to be there. As you said during the debt ceiling debate, a very solid majority, I think up maybe even higher than 70%, agreed with the approach that I talked about, which was we should have a balanced approach to deficit reduction. And what the American people saw is that Congress didn't care. Not just what I thought, they didn't care about what the American people thought. They had their own agenda. And so if they see that over and over again, that cynicism is not going to be reduced until Congress actually proves their cynicism wrong by doing something that would actually help the American people. This is a great opportunity to do it. This is a great opportunity to do it. Keep in mind, if the American Jobs Bill passes, we're still going to have challenges. We're still going to have to make sure that we've got the best education system in the world, because that is going to be critical for our long-term competitiveness and creating good, solid middle-class jobs. We're still going to have to keep investing in basic research and science. We're still going to have to make sure that we do even more on infrastructure. I mean, what's contained in the American Jobs Bill doesn't cover all the roads and bridges and infrastructure that needs to be improved around the country. So it's not as if that's going to solve all our problems, but it is an important start that we know would end up growing the economy and putting hundreds of thousands, millions of people back to work at a time when they needed the most. And it's paid for. I mean, the one persuasive argument that the Republicans previously had made against a bill like this is, the deficit's growing, we can't afford it. Well, we can afford it if we're willing to ask people like me to do a little bit more in taxes. We can afford it without affecting our deficit. Our proposal is paid for. So that can't be the excuse. And so yes, until they see Congress actually putting country ahead of party politics and partisanship, they're going to be skeptical. And it doesn't matter how many times I preach to them, this is not a reflection of their lack of faith in the American Jobs Bill. They haven't seen Congress able to come together and act. This is a good opportunity there. What we've seen is that they agree with what we've put forward. Now, here's what I'll also say is that based on the debt ceiling vote, what they've seen is that the Republicans in Congress, even when the American people agree with me, oftentimes will vote against something I'm proposing. So there may be some skepticism that I personally can persuade Republicans to take actions in the interest of the American people. But that's exactly why I need the American people to try to put some pressure on them. Because, I think justifiably what they've seen is that oftentimes even ideas that used to be supported by Republicans, if I'm proposing them, suddenly Republicans forget it and they decide they're against it. Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you travel the country, you also take credit for tightening regulations on Wall Street through the Dodd-Frank law and about your efforts to combat income inequality. There's this movement, Occupy Wall Street,
Right.
which has spread from Wall Street to other cities. They clearly don't think that you or Republicans have done enough, that you're in fact part of the problem. Are you following this movement, and what would you say to its people that are attracted to it?
Obviously, I've heard of it. I've seen it on television. I think it expresses the frustrations that the American people feel, that we had the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression, huge collateral damage all throughout the country, all across Main Street. And yet, you're still seeing some of the same folks who acted irresponsibly trying to fight efforts to crack down on abusive practices that got us into this problem in the first place. So yes, I think people are frustrated, and the protesters are giving voice to a more broad-based frustration about how our financial system works. Now keep in mind, I have said before, and I will continue to repeat, we have to have a strong, effective financial sector in order for us to grow. And I used up a lot of political capital, and I've got the dings and bruises to prove it, in order to make sure that we prevented a financial meltdown and that banks stayed afloat. And that was the right thing to do, because had we seen a financial collapse, then the damage to the American economy would have been even worse. But what I've also said is that for us to have a healthy financial system, that requires that banks and other financial institutions compete on the basis of the best service and the best products and the best price, and it can't be competing on the basis of hidden fees, deceptive practices, or derivative cocktails that nobody understands and that expose the entire economy to enormous risks. And that's what Dodd-Frank was designed to do. It was designed to make sure that we didn't have the necessity of taxpayer bailouts, that we said, you know what, we're going to be able to control these situations so that if these guys get into trouble, we can isolate them, quarantine them, and let them fail. It says that we're going to have a consumer watchdog on the job all the time, who's going to make sure that they are dealing with customers in a fair way, and we're eliminating hidden fees on credit cards. Mortgage brokers are going to have to actually have to be straight with people about what they're purchasing. And what we've seen over the last year is not only did the financial sector with the Republican Party in Congress fight us every inch of the way, but now you've got these same folks suggesting that we should roll back all those reforms and go back to the way it was before the crisis. Today, my understanding is we're going to have a hearing on Richard Cordray, who is my nominee to head up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He would be America's chief consumer watchdog when it comes to financial products. Now, this is a guy who is well regarded in his home state of Ohio, has been the treasurer of Ohio, the attorney general of Ohio. Republicans and Democrats in Ohio all say that he is a serious person who looks out for consumers. He has a good reputation. And Republicans have threatened not to confirm him, not because of anything he's done, but because they want to roll back the whole notion of having a consumer watchdog. You've got Republican presidential candidates whose main economic policy proposals is we'll get rid of the financial reforms that are designed to prevent the abuses that got us into this mess in the first place. That does not make sense to the American people. They are frustrated by it. And they will continue to be frustrated by it until they get a sense that everybody's playing by the same set of rules and that you're rewarded for responsibility and doing the right thing as opposed to gaming the system. So I'm going to be fighting every inch of the way here in Washington to make sure that we have a consumer watchdog that is preventing abusive practices by the financial sector. I will be hugely supportive of banks and financial institutions that are doing the right thing by their customers. We need them to be lending. We need them to be lending more to small businesses. We need them to help do what traditionally banks and financial services are supposed to be doing, which is providing businesses and families resources to make productive investments that will actually build the economy. But until the American people see that happening, yes, they're going to continue to express frustrations about what they see as two sets of rules.
Do you think Occupy Wall Street has the potential to be like Tea Party movement of 2012?
What I think is that the American people understand that not everybody's been following the rules. That Wall Street is an example of that. That folks who are working hard every single day, getting up, going to the job, loyal to their companies, that used to be the essence of the American dream. That's how you got ahead, the old-fashioned way. And these days, a lot of folks who are doing the right thing aren't rewarded, and a lot of folks who aren't doing the right thing are rewarded. And that's going to express itself politically in 2012 and beyond until people feel like, once again, we're getting back to some old-fashioned American values in which, if you're a banker, then you are making your money by making prudent loans to businesses and individuals to build plants and equipment and hire workers that are creating goods and products that are building the economy and benefiting everybody. Jake Tapper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to follow up on Jackie's question, one of the reasons why so many of the people at the Occupy Wall Street protests are so angry is because, as you say, so many people on Wall Street did not follow the rules. But your administration hasn't really been very aggressive in prosecuting. In fact, I don't think any Wall Street executives have gone to jail despite the rampant corruption and malfeasance that did take place. So I was wondering if you'd comment on that. And then just as a separate question, as you're watching the Solyndra and Fast and Furious controversies play out, I'm wondering if it gives you any pause about any of the decision-making going on in your administration. Some of the emails that Democrats put out indicating that people at the Office of Management and Budget were concerned about the Department of Energy. Some of the emails going on and with the Attorney General saying he didn't know about the details of Fast and Furious. Are you worried at all about how your administration is running?
Well, first on the issue of prosecutions on Wall Street. One of the biggest problems about the collapse of